Hi, everyone, and welcome to Baselane's very first Landlord of the Month. Very excited to be here with Larissa and Nick. And Nick, thank you so much for joining us as Baselane's first Landlord of the Month that we're going to spotlight. Nick, can you give a brief introduction of yourself and who you are as a real estate investor?
So first of all, thanks for having me, Jake and Larissa. It's great to be here and great to be considered for Landlord of the Month. I'm a small to medium size, a property management investor in New York and New Jersey primarily. And I have, through different partnerships, I have about 10 properties with about 33 units or 33 different doors of tenants. And I've been using Baselane for about a little over a year now.
Fantastic. That's amazing. And so just want to go through some like base questions about yourself. I know you answered some of them already, but just to make sure that we get them all in as well. So again, don't worry, we're going to edit some of this out. So it's all good. How many years have you been investing again?
I've been doing this for about 14 years.
Fantastic. And how many properties or doors do you currently own?
So through different partnerships, we have about 10 properties, 30 units, 33 doors.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
York
So,
and New Jersey.
so your properties are like a lot of them are multifamily investments, or are they more like bigger apartment buildings or?
So we have a few single family homes and then small, some I would consider small to medium size multifamily units in the range of 2 to 8 units.
Fantastic. What is your key investment strategy?
I think I understand, you want to know if the long term, short term market or flipping, things like that. But in the beginning, it started out as let's just do the best we can not to lose money. I started 14 years ago. My wife and I were pregnant with our first son, and we were reading in bed, and my wife was reading this purple book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I think many people can relate to. I think that's how a lot of people got started and curious about real estate investing. And my wife is known for reading a lot of fiction and fantasy and a little bit lighter work. And I was just so intrigued by this book. I just had her, take it from her. But to this day, I don't know if she ever finished it. But, that really opened up something in me that, I think intuitively I always knew was there about how the world works and, about assets and liabilities. But after reading that book, I just became, curious about real estate investing. And within a few months, through different partnerships, we started to explore real estate investing. So in the beginning, I really didn't know what we were doing, to be honest. We did the best we could to find properties that were under market value, that we thought we could bring value to and provide safe and clean housing to people. And luckily, it worked out with that first one. I don't think, I would be here today if that first one didn't work out. The goal was to stay in the game as long as we could, and over time that has evolved. And luckily, we're still building and growing. How I became involved with Baselane is, within the past 2 years, we closed on a 6 unit and an 8 unit building in a very short amount of time. And, my wife and I joke about this, but we started with a composition book as our first, bookkeeping apparatus. We evolved to Excel spreadsheets, and then finally, once our portfolio almost doubled overnight, we were looking for something more substantial to meet the needs, the size of where we were going, and that's how we found Baselane.
It's fantastic. And do you mind if I ask, do you remember what your first property was? Was it a house? Was it an apartment? Was it?
The first one was the single family home that we own to this day.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's still going strong to this day. That's fantastic. Do you currently use property managers, or are you actively managing all your properties yourself?
So we have a mix. Some of the properties that are closer to my physical area, I manage myself, and the properties that are in New Jersey have a property manager.
Okay, fantastic. So the next question was more about how you get started in real estate investment, but you gave a fantastic answer to that. So I think that's great. So your current core strategy you had mentioned was really just don't lose money and then figure it out along the way. But as you've evolved in real estate, as you've grown your doors, do you now have a core strategy that you like to focus on, or do you still kind of look at what fits the unit that you're buying?
I think our core strategy has become long-term investing. I think that's where my skill sets and talents and my partner, I think that's where our strength is. But fundamentally, we're open to whatever the market is pushing us in the direction to go in, or how we can bring the most value to the market, and how we can, continue to have a sustainable business.
Fantastic. And then let's go back to your first year as an investor. When you're looking at that first property and you're really just reading books and trying to figure it out, what is something that during that first year you wish you had known? Like something that you feel would have really got you going faster?
I think we didn't fully understand. I know this sounds silly, the cost of water. So they
Wow.
didn't
Such a good,
probably
that's great.
the first year we paid for water ourselves, even though it was a single family home and we could easily. Why were we paying for water for our
Yeah.
tenant? It sounds like a very stupid thing, but after that year, it just was like if I had a mentor or somebody that could have helped me along the way, or I could go back and tell myself, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache and pain.
Really, just from water? Why is that? Is it because it's a large
Bills.
cost, or
Well,
sorry?
when you're paying for water yourself, you tend to conserve. When you're in the shower, you may turn off the water when you're soaping yourself up, or you're turn it off when you're brushing teeth. But when you're not paying for it, or you don't see that bill, you treat water very differently.
That's fair. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So the next question is, and thank you, Nick. That's fantastic, and I think that's a great soundbite for our audience. I think a lot of people would think of that. I obviously never would have. So based on the current market, how are you how are you planning to approach your investments in 2024?
I think our overall philosophy doesn't change. I think you have your core values. They apply to any market, but specifically in 2024, I think my partner and I were really focusing on improving our own internal systems, whether that's through Baselane, whether that's improving our how we do leases, everything in terms of our internal systems in 24, so that we're ready to, make the next jump.
That's fantastic. So your internal systems would be things like the platforms you're using, how you connect with your property managers, that kind of thing?
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Like, do you feel like they're running somewhat smoothly now? It's just you want to tweak them a little bit after all this time, or do you feel like you need like real in-depth look into them?
I think no matter how successful you are, it's an ongoing and evolving process. But I think in the last year, along with Baselane, they've really accelerated that process for us.
Fantastic. And if you don't mind me asking a Baselane specific question, what specifically about Baselane has helped that process become smoother or accelerated it?
One of the biggest things is having all of your accounts in one area. You may have different bank accounts for different properties or different entities, but to have all of that information in one location and not have to switch screens and log into different bank accounts and things like that, it just makes the whole process a lot faster and smoother and easier. Having the tenants, having the portal that they can pay rent through, and then landlords actually having control over seeing when payments are coming in, who hasn't paid, sharing that information with the landlord so that they can, touch them physically and let them know that, communicate with them, find out what's going on there. Just having that all in one location, being able to pay vendors, accounts all in one location, and then have that categorized and show up on your screen in real time. Those are real time things that have really helped me out as a landlord.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that. That's amazing. And honestly, that's a fantastic soundbite for our article. So thank you. Thanks, Nick. That's fantastic. One thing is, I think we're going to skip the worst tenant question. But the next one is, what are your strategies for keeping your properties full? So our audience is always asking, like, how do I find tenants? How do I make sure my property is not vacant? What do you do yourself?
I think the most important job of any landlord or property manager is this tenant screening process. Collecting excellent tenants is the number one key to the success in this business. And when you have excellent tenants, treating them like the gold that they are. That means answering their requests, maintenance requests in a timely fashion, being open about communication, being consistent with your communication, treating the property as if you live there yourself and that you would, or a property that you would want your family member living in there yourself. Just really treating the tenants well, to be honest with you, is the key to that.
Fantastic. That's really great advice. Do you find that because you're treating your tenants well, when you do have a vacancy or tenants, you can get help from them to keep it full or find new tenants? Or
your tenants are investigating whether they want to live in your building. They are going to see your other tenants within the building, and they're going to talk to them, and they're going to get the lowdown on whether maintenance requests are done in a timely fashion, if you keep the buildings clean and safe, if you're fair with your rent increases. They're going to know the whole lowdown, and they're going to be either your best advocate or your worst advocate.
Fantastic. No, it's excellent advice. And I think like a lot of landlords, that's good advice for them as well, is to understand like the tenant relationship can help with your future goals and your future successes. That's amazing. What initially brought you to Baselane? So you've talked about how it's helped your business, but how did you find Baselane? How did you decide to try to onboard to the platform? What was that process like?
Well, when we collected our last two properties, the 6-unit and 8-unit building, we quickly learned that we were going to have to upgrade our systems to manage and keep track of all of the information and data collection that goes along with that. So I did a lot of investigating with a lot of different platforms. But what brought me back to Baselane each time was the banking and the rent collection, having that total control. Even though I have a property manager, I have control over seeing when the rent has come in. I don't have to keep pestering the property manager, asking, did this person pay? Did that person pay? Where we stand with this? Did you collect the late fees? Having all of that in one place, coming directly to me, getting notifications, and having that control is what made Baselane stand out for me. Having the ability to pay bills through ACH, not realizing at the time how much I would be using the debit cards that you guys offer and the virtual accounts, but that really has become a huge part of how we run our business. Those are all factors that led us to Baselane.
That's fantastic. And
how young as a business you were. Like I saw that even over a short period of time that you were making changes that to improve the overall platform on a basis. And my input as a landlord was being recognized and valued. And I was actually seeing those changes, seeing my requests and feedback actually implemented made a big difference. And I'm like, yeah, we can grow together. This is something that's going to really work.
That's fantastic. And sorry, Larissa.
Oh, I was just saying this makes me very happy. I've been working with Nick since I started working at Baselane. So it's wonderful to see him become a power user for his business. And he's the biggest advocate for Baselane. And it's just great to hear, how he's managed it and to really hear that we do advocate for you and your feedback is super invaluable. So thanks.
Yeah, it is really nice to hear. I think that's one of the reasons why Baselane will be successful is because we take that feedback. And same with content. We're looking for ways to really involve landlords more and get your feedback and learn from our community. That's amazing. Sorry, some of these questions have come up, so I want to make sure that we're not repeating. So you use a lot of different features. There's the debit cards, there's the multiple accounts, but what is the number one feature in Baselane platform you can't live without?
I think you're going to be surprised by my answer, and it's Larissa. It's the personal touch. And I'm not joking. This is not, to pat you on the back or anything, although you deserve that. But I don't think that the platform would be as successful as it is without having someone, I have 33 tenants. And if every time I have a question or concern, or one of my tenants has a question or concern, I had to go to a different person at customer support to help me out, it just wouldn't work. You'd have 15 cooks in the kitchen. But if I have a problem and I go to one person, and Larissa knows my account, she knows me, she knows my tenants, she knows what's important to them. If there's any onboarding issues, she talks to them and helps them in any way she can. It's been invaluable to have that one person oversee my whole portfolio.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
It's really kind.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an internal soundbite today. Which is amazing. And I think it is also important for us to hear because as we scale a business, it's important to know that the personal touch is something that has helped us get to where we are and how do we maintain that. So fantastic.
And landlords can have a personal touch. Like we should advocate for that too. Like when you have a lot of properties, you're not alone in this. I do always say that to, Nick, you're my number one, but I also have other customers that I try to give the same attention to it. And I want, users when they join this platform to know like, oh, we have account managers here, whether it's me or there's more as we grow. That's one of the benefits of Baselane. There you go. That's a good point.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's not possible anywhere else.
Thank you. Appreciate the shout out too. I'd be nowhere without you either, Nick. So thanks for being a power user. I love it.
That's fantastic. And then the next question, I think, because again, we want to keep ourselves honest and we always want to grow. So what do you want to see added to Baselane down the road? Like what could help you take it to the next level?
I think the number one thing that would help Baselane accelerate their growth and would bring more users to the platform would be the speed of money, the speed of transactions, not only in rent collection, but also in ACH transfers to vendors. Sometimes it takes 2 to 5 business days for me to send money to someone who did snow removal for me. And, that's a problem, and I'm afraid that if I can't accelerate the speed of money to those vendors, that they may not, do my properties in a timely fashion like I need. That as an absolute must. A lot of times, Baselane doesn't take money out of people's accounts, out of tenants' accounts, because they're trying to determine whether they have sufficient funds. To me, it's a binary question. Do they have sufficient funds in the account? Yes or no? Okay, yes, take it. No, all right, then don't take it. But it absolutely has to be improved upon. Another thing I'd like to see is if I could be able to share certain aspects of the platform with my property manager, it would cut down a lot of texting back and forth. Did this tenant pay? Did they not pay? I'd like to be able to share that and send notifications, access to my property manager, so he would know, who has paid and who hasn't paid, who's late, and what's going on in certain situations. A third thing that I would like to see is maintenance requests. I would like tenants to be able to implement maintenance requests directly through that platform, and for both myself and my property manager to send it to the appropriate vendors, and maybe even let the tenants know in real time what the timeline is for that repair, where we are. We're waiting for some part, or waiting for a certain talented person to come and do the work. I think that would also elevate the platform.
Fantastic. That's excellent feedback. And I think a few of those are on our roadmap, but this is great. Thank you, Nick. And then I just want to finalize with one question. So this is very a selfish question of mine, but I am looking to buy my first investment property probably this year. And as a brand new landlord, what would be your advice to me? If I'm a brand new investor, no real clue what I'm doing yet, what would be your advice?
Number one thing is, if you can, find a mentor. Find somebody already doing what you want to do. Take them out for coffee, or trade services in some way. But really find a mentor. That will accelerate the process. But you can also go to sites like Bigger Pockets, listen to podcasts. There's so many books out there that are so valuable. Rich Dad Poor Dad, like I talked about in his series. I love the book on property management by Brandon Turner and his wife. I believe her name is Heather. That's an excellent book. I highly recommend that to all landlords, whether they're managing their own properties or not, and just taking small daily action every single day, whether that's listening to the podcast, reading, talking to people, and then take action. You have to take action.
It's fantastic advice. Thank you. Well, Nick, you've answered all my questions. I actually we blew through them, and your answers were phenomenal. And I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you, Nick, so much for joining Baselane today. It was our pleasure to host you. We're glad that you're using the platform and that you're finding success in your investments and in your properties. And we just want to say we appreciate you being our Landlord of the Month.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dave.
you, Nick.
See you again, Larissa. We'll be
Awesome.
talking.